Back into the action from the penultimate round of the Africa Off-Road Championship Racing Series, brought to you by N1 4x4, your cruiser and Toyota all-wheel drive experts. It was straight into prize giving from the previous event, and a couple of surprise announcements coming into play as well. A big thanks to the Reinecker family, who was obviously there assisting with prize giving. This also known as the Hendrik Reinecker Memorial Event here at the Paardeplaas 200. Category winners getting their awards, and Wolf-Peter Fumfai incredibly shocking everyone with a announcement saying that he was going to be stepping out of racing. Once the full briefing was done, Brendan Martin stepped up and told the story of the legend that is Wolf-Peter Fumfai. After 45 years of racing, Fumfai getting a standing ovation. This would be his final hurrah, his last race ever. But as we always say in motorsport, no one really retires. I know we'll see Wolf-Peter around the corner at some point. But for now, we'll bid him adieu after 45 incredible years of building and racing these incredible off-road machines. Into the queue then, and good numbers coming into play. 12 crews on the special vehicle B category as always. When you break down the rest of the categories though, as always, Willy Feldman and Cornelius Niemann in full attack mode, straight out the gate in the F2, trying to taste another win. They'd be going up against Piet van Rensburg and Tyrone Vos, as well as André Vermeulen, to see if they could get it done. Wolf-Peter Fumfai would, as always, be the first special vehicle to go on out there in the B17. And I wonder how much emotion there was underneath that single-seater helmet. Would he really be retiring? Or was this the last time we would see the legend that is Wolf-Peter Fumfai? Monis de Bria and Eugene van Rensburg going out in the D7. 4 crews in the D category this time around. It's been a bit of a comeback for the D class, and the racing has been incredibly tight. You've seen D category cars get inside of the top 3s earlier on in the season. Sion Prinsloo and Dylan de Kock in the B31 would be one of the big threats going forward into this event. That eventually incurs some problems though, and fall down into 8th place at this event. Colin Croshaw and Marina van Skolkwijk in the C100. The only entry in C class, so for them, they would really have no pressure. It'll be all about seeing how high they can climb the ladder in the B categories. Michel Bonner would be chasing down his good buddy Peter Fumfai. Michel has been in great form and was predicted to finish inside of a top 5 come the end of the Paardeplaas 200 event. Marcus Labuskakny and Neil Putter, they've walked away with a couple of wins in G class so far this season. The side-by-sides saw 3 entries this time around. Labuskakny and Putter would go up against Philip de Vries and Willy Jacobs, as well as Vickers Haasbroek and Marco Solmonsen. Watch out for Haasbroek and Solmonsen though. 2 of the most aggressive side-by-siders out there. Steve van Skolkwijk and Arthur Croshaw in the B100. They've taken B category wins late on in the season. The buggy has really been coming good. Also, the pace showed and form that they'd be on for a predicted top 10 at least, if not a top 5. Han Kruger and Paul Murray in the D19 would line themselves up as one of 4 vehicles to try and chase down a Class D win. Some clutch problems late on in the season for the Heincore machine. They'll be hoping to just podium this time out to try and salvage the late season points. Johan Basson and Peter Kruger in the B11 will be trying to break their way inside of the top 5. They've been runners inside the top 10 most of the way through the season. Top 5 though would be a sweet one. Brendan Martin had to come into this round as the standout favourite. He's been absolutely flying the whole way through the 2018 Africa Off-Road Championship Tour. And in the B class, the 121 would be the one to watch. Aki and Jandre Kruger in the E3. Not too many E category cars still running nowadays. 2 would make the lineup at this event. The Krugers and the pairing of Lawrence Haasbroek and Johan Janssen van Rensburg. Older category, less power, less travel. You know you've been off-road racing when you climb out of an E-class buggy, believe me. Giel Nel and Ben Janssen also coming back from some mechanical problems at their previous event. They would eventually pull out after 3 laps of racing. Those intermittent problems still haunting them on the P47. Philip de Vries and Willy Jacobs were setting themselves up for a nice top 3 finish with just 3 cars entered into the G-Class. You could see from their early pace they meant business, and they were going out into full attack mode to beat out Labuskakny and Putter and Haasbroek and Salmonson. Haasbroek and Salmonson, the pair in the G21 with the final entry for the Gs, the side-by-sides. They'd have quite a bit of traffic to chase down, but at least only 1 car up the road to go into a full elbows up, straight out dogfight. Side-by-sides, giving us some of the most spectacular racing on the season. Piet van Rensburg and Tyrone Vos in the F46. That would be the 3rd entry for the F category. One of the older Hilux buckies, seeing what it still had left in the gate. Freddie O'Brien and Johan Retief, we saw them step into the X-Walker vehicle just a couple of races back. And after a little bit of maybe just gelling with the vehicle, the B39 was starting to set himself up and themselves up as a very solid pairing. Prediction was a top 3. Julio Ferreira and wife this time, Claire Ferreira, making the trip across the border to come race in the P1. And great to have a new pairing this time around. Traveling all the way from Botswana, but bear in mind, we're in the northwest of Africa. Botswana isn't that far up the road, but great to see a husband and wife pairing making the grade. Johan Lloyd and Arnold Theron, the only tube or space frame car that is running the Subaru engine. The B22 also showing us numbers. They should be able to run inside of a top 10, barring any mechanicals or punches. For Barry Kotzer and Given Ngubeni, the D5 would be a charge. Ngubeni stepping into the chair late on in the season, still coming to terms with navigation notes and the running repairs required to sit in the side saddle for off-road racing. That would be the 4th vehicle in the D category. Frank and Robert Moore in the B30, making up 12 entries for our B category. Also, just trying to make single digits and get inside of the top 10. Andre Vermeulen Jr. and Senior going out into full attack mode in the F1 category. They'll be chasing down on the men that opened up the road, Willy Velman and Cornelius Niemann. The pace early on, though, from the Vermeulens showed that they were in fighting spirit. The layout of the track and the terrain for this penultimate round of the Africa Off-Road Championship Racing Series was set out to be very hard, very rocky, and one of the most technical tracks laid out on the season so far. Everyone knew they were really going to be in a fight for it this time around. The technical nature possibly playing into the buckies and especially the side-by-sides, but for the bigger open wheels like that of Lawrence Boyson and Kobus Velman, technical doesn't always mean fast. They do like it wide open, the big buggies. Herzog Prinsloo was going to be on the driving with Nicole Prinsloo and Christoffel Bierkman swapping out navigation seats in the T16. Remember, our Ts are the national category or former national categories. So one of our previous national category setups on the car. We're going to try and see if they could beat out on the open wheels of Lawrence Boyson and Kobus Velman. The D11 was going to be a busy one as well. Rudolf de Toy alongside Brenda de Toy, and halfway through the race, Daniel de Toy. That thing sounded very strong, and the talk in the pits was that the D11 was the car to beat on the day. Quentin and Martha Erasmus in the B222. Still learning this format of racing, still learning the vehicle. Nice work though on it. It looked like one of the best setup cars, best prepped cars as well coming into this event. They'd be looking for a nice top 10, as well as Rudy Miller and Ferret Stein, one of the older category B40s. Previous events showed that they were good enough though to run inside of a top 10 in category. Dion and Simon Moans in the B91. Again, just trying to learn the vehicle, learn the terrain. They will be out there just to gather experience and points. Join us after the break to see what unfolds at the penultimate round of the Africa Off-Road Series.
On the bike show this week, we're still in Italy at the EICMA Motorcycle Expo. We take a close look at new models from Indian Motorcycles and BMW and check out a fancy new safety jacket from Alpine Stars.
The all-new Pajero Sport, with its legendary heritage, athletic design, and class-leading technology. This luxurious SUV delivers superior driving dynamics on and off the road. The Pajero Sport, the everyday, go anywhere family SUV.
Good fun.
Welcome back to our coverage of the Paardeplaas 200, the penultimate round of the Africa Off-Road Championship Racing Series for 2018. Before the break, we sent everyone out of the queue. Now it is out into the open veldt, where Willy Feldman and Cornelius Niemann were in a full-out attack mode, still leading on the road and still leading in category. Prinsloo and de Kock, though, were charging hard in the Bs, as well as the buggy of Van Skalkwyk and Croshaw coming on strong. Side-by-sides, though, had set some incredible pace out there on the track, and we're now closing things down on corrected time on our race leaders. Hein Kruger and Paul Murray in the D19 had one hand on the trophy for the D-class, but further back, one of the late entries, Rudolf de Toy, as well as Brenda and Daniel de Toy, were absolutely ripping up the fields in the D11, setting some of the fastest splits. Brendan Martin had taken over the lead in the B category, and then this was the flying Philip de Vries and Willy Jacobs making the pass on Carleen Croshaw and Marina van Skalkwyk. In fact, the car that got past there having to stop to wait for the dust to be cleared. De Vries and Jacobs were absolutely flying, cutting through the field like a knife through butter, staying ahead of the charging Vickers Haasbroek and Marco Solmonsen. Aki and Jandre Kruger were doing a good enough job to have a lead in the E category, with Wolf-Peter Fumfai for now staying inside of a top 3 in the B category. Fumfai's whole approach to racing is to allow people to actually make the pass on him, and he uses them, their dust, their navigation and their tracks to set himself up for the chase. Marcus Labuskakny and Neil Putter set off hard out the gate, but had some problems early on holding them back. They were now sitting in third place for the G-Class. In one of the more technical sections, it was 5 o'clock traffic as 3 cars were tripping over each other. Michel Bonner really got held up there. Freddie O'Brien and Johan Retief actually coming into that area just at the sweet spot after all the traffic had been cleared, and that would allow them to run up the order and get themselves into a nice position to challenge for a top 2 in the B class. Quinton and Martha Erasmus were out there in the desert. Great shots of the cactus. I love it when the camera guys grab a little bit of that. But problems early on in the event for Haasbroek and Van Rensburg. Looked like a collapsed rear right-hand side. In the pits, though, check it out. This was a massive story. The G4 coming into the pits, and they would have to do a splash and dash race format. Remember, the side-by-sides don't have a huge tank. They'd already taken over the lead from the F2, but in the pits, the story was that the F2 of Willy Feldman and Cornelius Niemann would be able to make the pass, make up ground, and retake the lead. The story now for the rest of the event was going to be the out-and-out dogfight between the G4 of Philip de Vries alongside Willy Jacobs, as well as Willy Feldman and Cornelius Niemann. Would it be a side-by-side or one of the older category bantams that would walk away with the penultimate win on the tour? After having to slow down the pace, caught up in all those dust gaps, Carleen Croshaw and Marina van Skalkwyk were back on point again, managing their race perfectly as the only C category. The T16 of Hartog Prinsloo, as well as Nicole and Christoffel, were doing a nice job in the T16 and looking like they were going to be able to take a T category win with their only opposition on the day, one of the open wheels, the the A30 of Lawrence Boyson and Kobus Fellman. Julio alongside wife Claire for the first time out in Africa Off-Road Racing, doing a very nice job as well. Great to see them line themselves up there and chasing down some good numbers. They were positioned at the moment for a number 2 finish in Ps. Jeremy and Christoph Mitchell in the P27 testing out their metal, their nerve and their suspension as they launched the P27 up high. They were now running in the number 1 position in Class P. E-Class had some battles unfolding. Nishal Bonner in the B20 was starting to come into traffic. Traffic had really slowed down his pace. Looked like he was not going to be able to climb any higher than a number 5 finish overall. The G20 of Marcus Labuschagne and Neil Putter were also on the comeback trail. They'd taken back number 2 on the road. Brendan Martin, after looking like he was going to be able to walk away with a clean win, was limping on the front right-hand side, but still, incredibly enough, held a lead in the B-Class. Freddie O'Brien and Retief were closing him down hand over fist, as was the buggy. Did Brendan Martin have enough time and enough kilometers to limp it home in his stricken B121? Barry Kotzer and Ngubeni were in good shape at the moment. They were eyeballing a number 4 finish. In the end, though, it was Philip de Vries and Willy Jacobs that won out the battle. What a battle it was as well between him and Fellman. It was a G4 and a penultimate win on the tour, and one of the first wins we've seen in a long time for the side-by-sides, not just in category, but to take the flag and be the first crew to cross the line here at the Paardeplaas 200. Great work for de Vries and Jacobs. A lot of crews suffering mechanical problems and punches. It was some of the hardest terrain we have raced on throughout the 2018 tour. The Bantam Butt came home in a number 2 spot, but obviously a great win in category for the F-Class for Willy Fellman and Cornelius Niemann. They'll be happy with that. They love a straight-out dogfight dice as well. They won't like losing to the side-by-sides, but they really just got beaten on the day by a better and stronger crew. In the D-Class, Hein Kruger and Paul Moret, they came across as the first of the Class Ds, and for a while it looked like they had walked away with the win. Unfortunately, they had to settle for a number 2 finish come the end of play. What they didn't know about was the flying D11 of Rudolf de Toy, as well as Brenda and Daniel de Toy, who had ploughed the field from the back of the pack and taken the win in the Class Ds. The unstoppable Cruiser had been a revelation at the penultimate round of the Championship Racing Series, having made more actual passes physically out there on the track than any other crew and run the fastest pace of any other crew. They took the fastest laps and the win in Class D. The D7 of Manus de Pria and Eugene van Rensburg kept their nose clean, and they brought the big yellow colt home in a creditable 3rd place finish for category. Brendan Martin, incredibly enough, he'd done all the work. Looked like he was going to have to give away the lead and the win, but somehow drove through the problems. Broken chicken wing, but still the win in category for Brendan Martin, staying ahead of Wolf-Peter Fumfai, who eventually came home as 2nd wheel across, but taking 3rd in category, bowing out with another podium once again. We say goodbye to Wolf-Peter Fumfai. Quinton and Martha Erasmus in the B222 did a lot of learning, and they bagged a number 10 finish come the end of play. For Freddie O'Brien and Johan Retief, it was a great day at the office for the B39. The crew that are still learning this vehicle very nearly took the win. 2nd place on the day, just beaten out by Martin. His early pace was just too strong. But for O'Brien and Retief, 2nd, they'll be happy with that. For the B100 Bug, it was number 4 this time around, just off the box. But solid points as far as the championship goes in the B category for Sifi van Skalkbeek and Arthur Croshaw. For Herzog Prinsloo, as well as Nicole Prinsloo and Christoffel Björkman, the T16 walked away with a category win in the national class, beating out Lawrence Boyson and Kobus Fellman. The big old Bucky got the job done. All the cars came in at the end of this one, sounding, looking, and certainly feeling very second-hand. It was extremely rough, tough, rocky, hard terrain for everyone to try and deal with. some late event punches, but for Piet van Rensburg and Tyron Vos, they were close enough to home to limp it in on the flat. The P27 of Jeremy and Christopher Mitchell did a nice job to walk away with their category win in Class P. One of the few crews to report no punches and no mechanicals. Keeping your nose clean does pay off. For Julio and Claire Ferreira in the P1, they showed their form once again. Second place. Lots of experience behind the wheel, and a new navigator starting to show her form as well. Congratulations, Claire on the notes, Julio on the wheel. Second place in Class P for the P1. Aki and Jandre Kruger in the E3 category, taking the win in ease. And for the E category, they really felt that. That was a bone rattler. Here's a breakdown of the categories then coming out of the Paardeplaas 200. In the Class Bs, even with a broken front right-hand side across the line, Martin did enough to beat out O'Brien and Retief with Fumfai getting the job done in third place. And once again, we say cheers to Peter. In the Class P, it was Jeremy and Christopher Mitchell getting the win ahead of the Ferreiras. And in Class C, Carleen Croshaw and Marina van Schalkwijk. In the Class D production vehicles, Rudolf de Toy and Brenda and Daniel de Toy getting the win ahead of Hein Kruger and Paul Moret. Dupria and Van Rensburg in third place, and Kutsa and Umgabeni forming well now as a partnership in fourth. Aki and Jandre Kruger, as well as Lawrence Haasbroek and Johannes Van Rensburg, DNFing in Class E, with Class F, Willy Feldman and Cornelius Niemann getting the category win and second overall on the event. In the Class Gs, it was Philip de Vries and Willy Jacobs getting their category win as well as the event win overall, with the rest of the side-by-sides DNFing. In the national class, it was Prinsloo and Bierkman that got the job done in the Big Ford. After the event, we went down in the pits to catch up with some reactions.
Thanks to Africa Off-Road, we had a great time today. It's only our second race, me and Gerkie. Still learning, but we had fun. Unfortunately, we on the second lap, our petrol cable snapped, and well, that was it. But still had fun.
Hi, my name is Quentin Erasmus, with my wife Martha Erasmus and my son Ethan. We used to do the powerboating thing, which was very enjoyable. I've been racing powerboats for 30 years, and my wife decided that it's time for us to try the rally cars. This is our second event that we have that we are busy participating in. The first one, we unfortunately had a breakdown after the first lap. This race, we were fortunate enough to finish our race, and it was great. It was awesome fun. Lots of dust, a little bit of mud, and high speed. Very, very, very enjoyable.
One event left on the tour then, and that is going to be the round 12, the final round of racing action for the Africa Off-Road Tour. Paardeplaas Fontaine, the 150 on the 1st of December.